YouTube, how's it going? The Go Nows is back with a huge video for you guys today. My full playoff and Super Bowl predictions for the upcoming NFL season. A video we do every single year at this time, so I'm super excited. They've been as accurate, more accurate than anyone else is out there as well. My recent Super Bowl predictions have been very good, actually. Last year was an early season prediction. We had the Chiefs-Niners very close, obviously, the year before. In this video at this time, we had the Rams-Chiefs. Obviously, ended up being Rams-Bengals very close. The year before that, we had it exactly. Chiefs and Bucks. The year before that, we had the Chiefs winning. They beat the Niners that year. So two things. Let's see if my prediction is as accurate this year. Let's see if we have the Chiefs in there again as well. So I know people are curious to see that. But we're not just going over Super Bowl predictions. Full playoff predictions in this video. My player rankings will be next. The next video is in line. Cannot wait for our in-season content. That's my favorite stuff there. Our weekly picks, score predictions, all of that, power rankings. So hopefully you join us. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. We're always talking with you guys, keep you guys involved on our Twitter. So link pin in the comments for that, our other social medias, and our sponsors, Code GO on GLD Shop and Liquid IV. Let's get into it. So I'm going to go through my AFC seedings. We'll talk about divisions as well. Then we're going to go round by round AFC playoffs. Then we'll do the same for the NFC. And then I'll give you my Super Bowl predictions. So starting at the 1 seed for graphics guy did a hell of a job too. These new graphics are very cool. But number 1 overall seed for the AFC after the regular season, Cincinnati Bengals. They have a tough schedule, tough matchups, but they're a very tough team. I like the layout. I like how they match up in those specific games during the regular season against those tough teams. So I have the Bengals as the 1 seed. The Chiefs, a good guess to have them towards the top. I mean, as well as the Bengals, the Bills. I mean, they're always safe bets to be up here. So I have the Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champions, as the 2 seed. The Bills are the 3 seed. That's kind of where it gets a little bit tougher because that AFC East is a juggernaut division. It's ridiculous. The Bills could win it. The Dolphins could win it. The Jets could win it. I mean, the Patriots are a pretty good team, even though they're expected to be 4th in that division. But the Bills, they're always a tough team in the regular season. Josh Allen, that type of offense, especially because of Josh Allen, so hard to game plan for. Defense, very tough. No Leslie Frazier this year. We don't think it will hurt them at all. They've been very good in the regular season, but then they struggle in the playoffs in terms of the defense. But the Bills are interesting. What I think a big factor here is the Dalton Kincaid pick, believe it or not. I wasn't a huge Kincaid guy. I think he's good. But something about the Bills getting him, and that tells us that they're going to try to create mismatches because obviously he's like a big receiver that plays tight end. But they're going to change up their looks, their personnel a little bit, and that's going to make them even tougher to game plan for. So I don't think things are going to get stale with the Bills. While the Jets and the Dolphins might be different, they might be new, maybe even the Patriots, and you think the Bills might be the same old team. They might be in the playoffs. Can they go over that hump? But in terms of the regular season, I think that's going to be something new, something tougher to game plan for from the Bills. And, Von Miller coming back. They had Leonard Floyd as well on there on that defense. So it's gonna be something different, something interesting here from the Bills. So I like them winning the division still. And then we'll kind of recap the divisions here in a second. I got the Jaguars getting the 4 seed, winning that AFC South. They're just getting started. Looking at the end of last year, they're just getting started. They're only going to continue to get better. Could Trevor Lawrence take another step up? And the AFC is so damn tough. It is so hard leaving out teams that feel like for sure playoff teams, but you have to do it. So this is kind of what I have for the rest of the AFC. And again, you see the teams that I have on the outside, those feel like playoff teams, and they very well can make the playoffs, and teams I'm not even going to mention can make the playoffs as well. It's very tough. I have the Jets as the 5 seed. I mean, it's a really good roster. I mean, if you're looking at just straight up roster, who has the most complete roster in football, it might be the Jets. Look at it all the way through. They're that good. They could win that division. I mean, the Dolphins really could win the division as well, and I have them missing. It's that tough. Like, there's going to be really tough teams left out here. But the Jets, very complete. We'll see where Rodgers is at, switching teams. Will it be the same for him? Will he be the same? Is he starting to decline? I'm not really too worried about the regular season. I think they'll be really, really good. Can definitely contend to win that division and be a Super Bowl contender as well. We'll see what I have in the playoffs here. The Ravens as the 6th seed. Ravens are tough because you worry about the durability. You worry about the health of that team. A lot of people aren't really worried about the offensive line, but I worry about the offensive line, honestly. Health, but how not just that as well. How good will it be But I think they're going to start very well. I think they're going to have a very good season in general as long as they stay healthy, but they're going to be incredibly tough early on because they'll be healthy, but because it's a different offense. It's going to be a different playbook. So with Todd Monken calling plays, obviously running that offense, so that's going to make it so hard to game plan for them. So they could also, I have the Bengals winning that division and being the 1 seed. The Ravens could win that division, but really tough team. Like the secondary a lot. Young pass rushers got to step up. Interior defensive line will be solid. Is it as good as what we're used to it being like one of the very best? Linebacker unit, very solid as well. It's kind of the pass rush. And that, the interior defense line is really not a question. They'll play good enough, but is it like elite like it used to be? That's kind of the questions. And I have the Cleveland Browns, and I come on back and forth on this because apparently it is bold, but my gut feeling, if you've been with us for a long time, my gut feeling has been good. Whether I predict what my gut says, or sometimes I don't always predict what my gut says. I think 2 years ago, my gut was telling me the Bengals would be a very solid team, an actual playoff team. They ended up going all the way to the Super Bowl, surprisingly. Last year, my gut was telling me the Jaguars, and I kind of went away from those predictions. So gut's telling me the Browns this year, but it really shouldn't be that bold. I mean, you look at this team on paper, at least, it's a loaded roster. It is one of the more complete rosters in football. They have the running game. They have one of the very best offensive lines in football. I think the weapons at the receiver position have gotten better. Defensively, they've always been really good on paper, but they're extremely underwhelming, not playing up to how they look on paper last year. But they bring in Jim Schwartz, who's a very good defensive coach. They add Dalvin Tomlinson on the inside. I mean, they've been underwhelming compared to how they look in paper in the past because they look really good on paper. But even, if you find the holes in the past on paper, the interior, and so adding Dalvin Tomlinson was huge. They add Zadarius Smith as well, which is the guy that gets production but also creates because he can align in different spots. So I mean, it's just going to help guys like Myles Garrett even more who could have a defensive player type year. I think the young linebackers step up. The secondary looks really good. They've had some injuries at the cornerback position, but they're deep. I mean, Martin Emerson was a stud rookie last year. And could he even be their third best corner? Because Greg Newsome has durability issues, but is very, very good. So they have corners. They have options there. They bring in Juan Thornhill from the Chiefs as well. So, and it's kind of on Deshaun Watson. And people, I think a lot of people are knocking the Browns, think they won't be that good. Maybe how they ended last year where Watson was out of football for a bit. He got thrown back in there, obviously. And it was a tough situation. They were in a lot of games early with Jacoby Brissett, and they kind of choked some games. I think a lot of it's on Stefanski for me. He's got to be a better coach, but I'm thinking, maybe people don't want Watson to be good. I can understand that, but I'm here to predict, and I think Watson will not only be better than last year, I think quite a bit better than what he showed us at the end of last year. Will he be elite again? Probably not. Not my prediction, but this is a really good roster. They can beat you with the pass. They can beat you with the run. They can bully you in the trenches. They're going to get after the quarterback. They're going to be playmakers in the back end. They got a better defense coordinator. The Browns, I'm not going to ignore my gut here. The Browns have a really good roster. I think Watson plays better this year. So we'll talk about the Dolphins and the Chargers. We're kind of going through the divisions we start with the Bengals in the AFC North. I have the Bengals and the Ravens and the Browns. You can flip the Ravens and the Browns. And the Steelers, I think, are a candidate to win about 10 games. So the Steelers, Mike Tomlin, can sneak back into playoffs. And then for the AFC West, who I have the Chiefs getting the 2 seed, I have Chiefs, Chargers, and then I have the Broncos and Raiders. You can flip those. I worry about the Raiders defense. And then for the AFC East, I have Bills, Jets, Dolphins, Patriots. The Patriots are a damn good fourth place, last place in the division. And then the AFC South, which is tough. I was straight up going Jags, Texans, Titans, Colts. The Titans add DeAndre Hopkins. It makes things interesting. My guts tell me the Texans are going to be way better than expected. That sneaky team, which last year I was calling the Jags a sneaky team. The year before I was calling the Bengals a sneaky team of the year, and that ended up being accurate. The Texans are the sneaky team, so I don't really want to sleep on them. But the Titans adding Hopkins might boost them over. And I like their defense. Go Titans 2, Texans 3, Colts 4. For that division. But the Dolphins, I think you could argue the Dolphins have the best defense in football, and that alone could get them in the playoffs. It's tough leaving them out. It is tough leaving them out. Offense is a big question for 3 reasons. 3 reasons, actually. Tua's health is one. Tua's talent level, which was really, really good when he was healthy last year, but when he came back, not so much. So it still is, I'm optimistic if he's on the field and healthy on where his talent, his skill level will be, but it's still a question. And then Mike McDaniel looked like a great coach early in the year, but team started the game plan for his offense much, much better, and he started to get predictable, and he started to abandon the run when it was working and just kind of doing his thing, just no matter what, we're going to pass the ball more. He cannot do those things. And then how will the offensive line be, things like that. They still have time to add a guy like Dalvin Cook, which could boost them as well. Could that make me put them in the 7th seed? It's a possibility. So it's tough leaving them out because that defense is insane. That cornerback duo is ridiculous. The pass rush duo. The AFC is just too damn good. Like the Dolphins would possibly be the 3rd or 4th best team in the NFC. So, and the Chargers, it's tough leaving Herbert out. I think he's a top 5 quarterback in football. He could continue to get better. Like a quarterback of that caliber just gets his team in the playoffs. And he has solid receivers. They got to stay healthy, obviously. See how the offensive line holds up, how the running game holds up. Eckler's great, but will they be able to run the ball inside, the X amount of times a game? And defensively, I like adding Eric Kendricks. I mean, the secondary solid. Will Khalil Mack take a step down? How's the health of Bosa and Mack? The interior defensive line needs to be better. They've struggled to stop the run. There's really nothing there that says they're going to be, and they'll be a tiny bit better stopping run, but nothing, maybe not enough. It's just, you got to be, it's tough to be in the playoffs in the AFC. The Dolphins and Chargers could definitely make it. There's other teams that could as well. The AFC is just that loaded. Let's go round by round before we get to the NFC. So wild card round, you see on the right above me, I have the Chiefs over the Browns. I mean, a few years ago, the Browns gave the Chiefs a battle. That was with Baker Mayfield. I mean, if Watson just plays like Watson or even close to that, it's going to be a very, very good team because it's a very good roster. But I have the Chiefs over the Browns. I have the Bills over the Ravens. Will the Ravens be healthy at this time? Will the Bills' defense fold in the playoffs? The offensive line, same thing. Can they get over the hump? But I have the Bills over the Ravens. And Jags-Jets is the battle of the century here. I'm actually going to go with the Jags at home. I think that if this game was actually a matchup, if we were predicting the future, I think the Jets probably would be favored. But I would go the Jags in this specific scenario. The Jets, they're both very complete rosters, both very good rosters, explosive, very good teams. The Jets might be a little more complete, but in Jacksonville, they got that experience last year. I know the Jets got some guys with experience as well, but Will Rogers, how will he be MVP Rogers? Can he get over the hump in the playoffs? These are he could. They could win the Super Bowl. They really could. That's how good the AFC is here. The Jags had a playmaking defense. And I'm just thinking Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he played so bad his rookie year. Then last year I predicted him to take that major leap, and people kind of gave me shit for it for some reason. He took that major leap. Why was it easy to predict that? Because he was a generational talent. It's like maybe that's a stretch because there's other guys coming out like crazy that are that good of quarterbacks. But no, I mean, he's a guy that is that good. He's supposed to be that good. So why can't he take another step up? Could he be that? Could he be better than Aaron Rodgers? So I'll take the Jags at home, but that's a flip of a coin. That's a 50-50 one there. Really, Jags and Jets, I think they can win the Super Bowl. I think either team can win the Super Bowl. They're matched up against each other in the wild card round. That's pretty crazy. Next round, I have the Bengals over the Jags, which could be a good game. I'm just going to trust the Bengals and their experience a little bit more. And I'll take the Chiefs over the Bills, which we know would be an epic battle like it always is. The Chiefs are experiencing getting over that hump, and the Bills have struggled to do that. It'd be a shootout type of game. I'm just going to take in a battle Mahomes over Allen, even though that is very close. So then we have the Bengals and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, and I am on 4 years straight predicting the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl, and that has worked out for me. And whether it was at some point during the season I predicted them, I should say. But I'm finally going to stop that. I'm going to go Bengals over Chiefs in the AFC title game. The Bengals going to the Super Bowl, and we'll see who they match up against here. But that's what I have. That's kind of been my gut feeling for the AFC really since the last season ended. So we're going to stick with that. But what happened in the offseason, I guess, plays a part as well. Take a look at the Bengals. They do lose Jesse Bates, but they add other pieces. They get Awuzie back at the cornerback position. I think they lose Bates, who's a phenomenal free safety. But this is a very, 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 very well-coached defense, complete defense, and they might be more complete now. Offensively, they get better on the offensive line, and we know that the talent that they have across the board. But they're in the Super Bowl, so we will revisit the Bengals, talk about them in a little bit, and see who they match up with. NFC, I think people would consider this bold. Again, people will disagree with me. My prediction's been pretty accurate. Have they been 100%? No one has. But I have the Niners as the 1 seed. I like, and they play tough teams, but I like to lay out the schedule. I like them winning a good amount of ball games. I guess it's a little risky to predict. I think a lot of people are predicting them to be 1 or 2 seed, but it might be a little risky because who's that quarterback to start the year? Who's that quarterback all year? Purdy's got to be the guy. How many games will he play? Will he be the same? Will he be? That's why it's risky. Because will he be the same after that weird injury? But is the same? If he was the same, is it good enough? Will he kind of get figured out? Things like that. They lose Mike McGlinchey. It's another thing too. They lose D'Amico Ryans, but they bring in Steve Wilkes. It's still a very, very top tier defense. It's still an explosive offense that is very difficult to stop. This is where it gets interesting. The Cowboys and the Eagles, I have tying with the same exact record. I'm going to give it, gut feelings tell me the Cowboys here. I predicted the Eagles last year. So we'll predict the Cowboys. Well, not that's why, but I'm saying we'll predict the Cowboys this year, and we'll see if we'll be accurate on that again. But just kind of a gut feeling. You look at it. The Eagles lose both their coordinators. The Cowboys bring back Dan Quinn, their coordinator, their defense coordinator. And the Cowboys get better on defense. So it's 50-50 there. My gut's telling me the Cowboys. And this is where I might surprise some people. I have the Saints as the 3 seed. I know not everyone has the Saints even winning that division. They should win that division. Why are they at the 3 seed, not the 4? I like their schedule. I think it's a very favorable schedule. But the Saints are very good on top of that. They have a very solid roster, a very complete roster, a very good defense. They had Derek Carr. Whether you like Derek Carr or not, they get better with Derek Carr at quarterback. Chris Olave, guys that are stepping up. Yeah, Kamara probably going to be suspended, so I guess that's tough. They had Jamal Williams, though. They draft Kendre Miller, so I'm not really too worried about that. I like their schedule a lot. They got a good roster. I guess the question, of course, is durability, but I guess the players that have led the Saints for so long, they've been there for so long, so do they start to take a step down? So I guess that's the questions with the Saints, but I like their roster. I like their schedule. It's just really about how the Vikings at the 4 seed. I got the Lions coming, obviously, in a battle with the Vikings. I still think this is the Vikings division, but it's very, very close. That offense is one of the best football, very explosive. And they were as good as they were last year, 13 wins with arguably the worst defense in football. Now, the defense still will be a problem, not for other teams, for the Vikings. They bring in Brian Flores, though. I don't think it could be any worse. Not that it'll be a huge step up, and that could stop them short in the playoffs like it did last year. I don't think they'll win 13 games, but I still think it's probably their division to lose, even though it'll be a battle there between them and the Lions. The next group of teams here, I have the Eagles as the 5 seed, and the Eagles-Cowboys, I had them tying record-wise. You could flip those teams there. Kind of gut told me Cowboys. Gut was telling me Eagles last year when I thought it'd be really close. And I have the Seahawks as the 6th seed. They have a tough schedule. They might have won the offseason, looking at free agency and the draft combined, or either one. They might have won the offseason. It's really on Geno. How he will be, but the Seahawks feel better. Like the Eagles and the Seahawks feel better than their seedings, right? Like the Eagles, like 5 seed, like a 5 next to the Eagles. It's like, they're better than that. But I have the Cowboys to the Seahawks 6. They feel better than that. Tough schedule, and the Niners are the 1 seed who are in their division, and the Lions at the 7 seed. A lot of people picking the Lions to beat the Vikings in that division. You could flip those. They're both on the weaker side in terms of defenses, but they both should get a little bit better. I like the Lions' younger talent a little bit better. How will Jared Goff be? That's the big question. That is the big question. I think teams will game plan for him a little better this year. They ran a lot of man against him last year. I think they'll see a lot more zone, but they do have talent over there on the Lions, and they're on the way up for sure. Well, will they, how much will they accomplish this year? But I have them as the 7th seed. The Giants and the Falcons would be the next teams missing, which the Giants are tough because they took a big leap last year, so could they continue to progress? They very well could. And make the playoffs again, maybe even better, be a better seed even. And they won a playoff game last year, so it's tough leaving them out. What's going to go on with Saquon there, obviously. And the Falcons would be a really good team on the ground, and they can win ball games, control the clock because of that. And they add some key pieces across that roster. I mean, a big one on defense was Jesse Bates. And they add pieces in the draft all offseason, really. So the Falcons, some people have the Falcons winning that division. I'm feeling the Saints. I like their schedule. I like their roster. They get better at quarterback. I mean, the Saints were underwhelming last year, but they were in games. Like, they were in battles, with Andy Dalton at quarterback. Now they have Derek Carr. So whether you like Derek Carr or not, he's a lot better than Andy Dalton. And I think he's got guys that, like, Chris Olave, Derek Carr connection, I think is going to be really good. Like, that's like a perfect duo, like fit, like style of play. So, yeah, a little bold. Maybe I don't think it's that bold, but having the Cowboys win the division, because I think that's a flip of a coin. It's not bold if you go Eagles, not bold if you go Cowboys. But I think maybe a little bold having the Saints have the 3 seed. And like I said, Vikings, Lions could flip. I know a lot of people probably have the Lions, but or maybe 50-50 there. But in terms of the NFC West, I have Niners, Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals. We have the Cowboys winning the NFC East and a tiebreaker against the Eagles. Cowboys, Eagles, Giants, Commanders. Commanders could be sneaky. I have Saints, Falcons, Panthers, and then Bucks in the NFC South. The NFC North, I have Vikings, Lions, and actually had a tie in terms of record there. Vikings winning the tiebreaker. And then I have Packers, Bears. The Packers could be sneaky as well because that defense is very, very good. Should be very, very good. So that's what I have in terms of seedings of the NFC. And the AFC, we really didn't have upsets in terms of seedings. The NFC will be a little bit different. I have the Cowboys beating the Lions 2-7. I think it's a phenomenal matchup for the Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys have an explosive offense to score all over that Lions defense, but the Cowboys have one of the best defenses in football at the same time I'm expecting this year. So I like the Cowboys over the Lions. And then the Vikings are home against the Eagles 4-5, but I like the Eagles in that one. I mean, the Eagles, the 49ers, Cowboys, and Eagles all feel like 1 seeds, and we have 2 in the same division with the Cowboys, Eagles. They're, like I said, 50-50, Cowboys, Eagles, tied record, flip of a coin for me. So I have the Eagles over the Vikings. I think the Vikings defense would let them down. They don't have good experience against the Eagles, too, which that's in the past, so that's not really the reason. But and then I have Seattle over the Saints. I got the Seahawks, the 6 seed, over the 3 seed Saints. So I had the Saints as high as 3. A big reason was, it's a good team. The schedule is pretty favorable, so that was a big reason. I think that, so again, Seahawks 6 seed, Saints 3 seed. I think the Seahawks are the better team. I guess different division is a reason on why the seeding's different than who I think's the better. I think the Seahawks are the better team. They had a lot better in the offseason. They had killed the draft. They killed free agency, then the draft. They're a very good roster. They're very well coached. You also wonder about the Saints' health at this point as well. I think the Seahawks are just the better team. This would probably be... Saints got a good defense, so they got a much better defense than the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks really improved their defense, but I still think Seattle finds ways to score a good amount of points in a game like this. So I have Seattle moving on there. So a couple seeding upsets, but I do think if we had to predict, I think those lower seeds might be favored in those games. Like if it actually happened, it was like Saints 3 versus 6 Seahawks. The Seahawks could be favored in that game, and I think the Eagles would definitely be favored if they're a lower seeded over the Vikings. So they're not crazy upsets there. And then we move on to the next round, and we're division battles. We saw these 2 teams play in the playoffs last year, but I will take the Niners again over the Seattle Seahawks. It's a bad matchup. The Seahawks have that defense to slow down the Seahawks offense, and the Seahawks made their defense a lot better. I mean, adding Draymond Jones, having young talent that's going to continue to get better, adding more good young talent, they got better, but the Seahawks aren't going to win because of defense. They're going to win because of offense. The Niners are going to stop that off, really slow down that offense, and they'll be able to run the ball. It's just a bad matchup for Seattle, even though I really like what they did this offseason. They're a very good team. I think Geno will play as good or if not better. And the Cowboys-Eagles, back to that flip of a coin. I have them tying in the NFC East. Gut tells me Cowboys. I'm going to stick with that gut. The Cowboys defense could very well be the best in football this year. I think it's between the Niners, Cowboys, and the Dolphins. You have teams just outside of that, the Jets. People will mention the Eagles as well. That Cowboys defense will be ridiculous. Retaining Dan Quinn, Micah Parsons, full-time pass rusher. I wasn't in love with the Mozzie Smith pick, but they needed somebody on the interior. They have some good young inside linebackers as well. They have a phenomenal cornerback duo, adding Gilmore on top of Diggs. They got talent everywhere. It's continuing to get better under Dan Quinn. And the offense, very, very explosive. And I think Dak will play better this year. And the Eagles losing both coordinators could be the slight difference, and maybe there's a better game plan out there for a Jalen Hurts-led offense, but they still will be very, very good, very fast on both sides of the ball. Another year with A.J. Brown, some new running backs in there. It's going to be good, but losing coordinators, Cowboys getting better on defense for sure with some veterans, obviously. Offense with Brandon Cooks. I'm going to go Cowboys in that one, but that'll be debated for sure. I trust my judgment. My prediction's been pretty accurate. And then we have a rematch of that playoff game, which was a good one, Niners and Cowboys in the NFC Championship. And I have the Cowboys getting revenge. I'm going to get ripped for this because there's a lot of people that just absolutely dislike the Cowboys out there, and the Cowboys have time and time again not been able to get over that hump. Let me tell you, though, I've been predicting them not to get over that hump. I haven't trusted them to get over that hump where they choked in the past, and I said that's why I can't predict them to go past it. So it's not like I've been wrong with them. I've been predicting them to get over the hump every year. I have not. I've been accurate with that. I'm going to predict them to do it this year. The Niners very well could beat them again in this scenario. That's a very complete team, but how they've struggled to get over this hump, like the big stage games. I don't really think that's why, though. Like, I think they're capable of doing it. I think it's more so health, durability. I think it's more so that. I think they're talented enough and they're well coached enough, even though Shanahan, I guess, has had some interesting decisions in big games. I'm not really worried about that. How healthy do they be? Who the hell will be at quarterback? I would hope Purdy. Losing a guy like Mike McGlinchey could be a factor. The offensive line might be worse. They're very well coached, though. Steve Wilkes is a great defensive coordinator. They have a great defense, but not having D'Amico Ryan. So these are slight things that could be a difference. You look at last year's game, very close game. Like usually, like why did the Cowboys lose that game? I mean, the Niners were just better, and the Niners were better in that game, or the Niners just completely outcoached them. The Cowboys choked. Something weird happened, in that type of Cowboys game. But it really wasn't that. It was just really one thing: Dak Prescott throwing to the ball to the wrong team. That's really what it was. And that's really not what Dak Prescott's been about before last year. Sure, he's thrown interceptions. He turned the ball over. That's not what he's been about. I think he gets back on track. I think people are for some reason, so sure he's going to continue to be turnover prone, if you want to put it. That might be a stretch of even calling him that at all. Some people might. But why can't he just get back to where he was? And he still played well last year, not really in that game. But so I think he gets back on track. They add Brandon Cooks on top of the talent they have. They're going to look a little bit different with the play calling, the playbook, so that could be a game plan factor. The defense is going to be really good. This could be the very best defense in football. It could be better than the 49ers. A defensive battle in that game. I think the Cowboys might be a little more explosive in the passing game in a game like that. Looking at top-tier defense who can make that extra play in the passing game, what it's all about today, could be the Cowboys. But I watch out. Something people aren't talking about. We're talking about their pass rush. We're talking about the secondary. I would watch out for those young inside linebackers, those young off-ball linebackers, I'd say. Damone Clark, who I liked a lot from LSU, he only dropped it was 2 years ago, only dropped because of injury. He's really, really good. I would have an early second-round grade on him if it wasn't for that injury. Not this past draft, the one before. And DeMarvion Overshown, if you watch this during the draft content, I was a huge fan. And this guy can blitz. He can drop in coverage. He used to be a safety. These are Dan Quinn pieces. And it's not just Leighton Vander Esch back there. There's a reason they're moving Parsons, which he almost was last year, but the full-time edge rusher, they're able to. So they're going to be unique. They're going to be fast. They're going to be freaky. I love that defense, what they're presenting on paper, but they have one of the best coaches in football in terms of defense, and Dan Quinn as well. And we know the offense will be explosive. So I'm going to get ripped for it, but I have the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. I'm going to get ripped for it just because people just cannot believe they will get over the hump. And there's a lot of people that just don't like the Cowboys because there's a whole lot of fans and they're considered America's team. That's be my guess. But it's not like I've been a guy that have been saying, they're finally going to get over the hump. They're finally going to do it. I have not been that guy. I'm going to say it right now. It is a little bit of a bold prediction, but it's a really good team. And I have the Bengals in the Super Bowl. Obviously, we went over the AFC in the beginning of this video. This is a really good matchup. It's kind of an even matchup because look at both sides of the ball. Both these offenses are high-powered. Mainly pass first. They're going to be this year. They have crazy weapons, high-powered passing attacks. They can also run the ball, and the Bengals will be better running the ball, not than the Cowboys, but better than they have been. Adding a guy like Orlando Brown Jr., who's a phenomenal tackle, but mainly a top-tier run-blocking tackle. And they have a talented guy in Joe Mixon. He's talented. It's been a little underwhelming. He's very talented. The run blocking has been atrocious. I think it's going to be better. And they have young guys that are going to continue to get better there on the offensive line. Weapons everywhere. Very good quarterbacks. Obviously, Burrow going to be better than Dak Prescott. And then defense, I think you got top-tier defenses here. I think the Bengals have a top 5 defense, in my opinion. They have one of the best defense football. You look at the regular season, no one ever considered, last couple of years, no one ever considers the Bengals the best defense in football. They say they're pretty good. But then, and I agree with that, they're very, very good, top 5, top 10 in the regular season. But once we got through the playoffs the last 2 years, they felt like the best or the second best defense. Were they all season long? They were close, but no. But when it's all said and done, in the biggest stages, the biggest games, they felt like maybe the best defense. So it's so well coached. So you have that, who's been a consistently top tier elite playoff defense, big stage defense, and then you have the Cowboys defense, who's just ridiculous on paper, very well coached. I think could be the best defense during the regular season and most of the playoffs, or maybe all of them this year. So, I mean, look at them like that. Like, they're very, very even teams. I had the quarterback play, and maybe the receivers, even though receivers are really good on both sides, maybe side sorts the Bengals. The offensive line side sort. I love that's another thing about the Cowboys that I wish I mentioned when we were talking about the NFC. We can mention it now. Offensive line's really good. It's always been good. What's been the issue? What's been the issue with durability? But now the depth looks really good. Like, it looks really good. They drafted Tyler Smith last year, who looked phenomenal, like super impressive to me, way better than expected. Whether he's playing tackle or guard, he's good. He's good. So if he's starting at guard, he can fill in at tackle if somebody goes down. They drafted Akeem Richards, who I think could fill in both. That's a really good backup too. They have options there, so that's another thing there. Again, the Bengals add Orlando Brown Jr. I think the offense, that's what they needed. I think the offensive line would be better. I think specifically it improves the run blocking, which could actually open up that part of the game, but the passing game as well. So this would be a phenomenal Super Bowl. So something different. I've had the Chiefs in it and it's worked out for me for the last 4 years. Like I said, last year was an early season prediction. I had Chiefs, Niners in the year before, which was close. And the year before, which was a preseason prediction, I had Rams and Chiefs. Chiefs lost in the AFC Championship. It was ended up being Rams and Bengals. And the year before that, I had exactly with the Bucs and the Chiefs. And I had the Chiefs win the year before, which they ended up beating the Niners. So I've been pretty accurate with these. I'm going Bengals Cowboys at this stage, at this time, I should say. And my winner will be the Cincinnati Bengals. They get over that hump. Last year, losing a tough nail biter in the AFC Championship game. The year before, losing in a tough nail biter in the Super Bowl. They're right there, and I think they can do it this year. And I think why people will say they just can't do it is just because the other talent in the AFC, but specifically, maybe people will say the offensive line is still going to hold them back, and it still could. I like them. I think they'll be better. I like them going out and getting Orlando Brown Jr. Another reason, they lost Jesse Bates, who I'm a big fan of. I've always been a big fan of. So you lose like a star or close to star player there, but they got young guys stepping up. They had Nick Scott. They have Dax Hill stepping up. They got young guys getting better. They've been drafting extremely well. Watch out for the Myles Murphy pick. I was a big fan of Myles Murphy, the defensive end from Clemson. I think he's going to help them. Perfect fit. They already got guys up there that are going to make big plays. They stop the run. They get after the quarterback. They make plays. I think the defense is more complete this year. The offensive line's a little more complete. I wish they had Hayden Hurst still. Irv Smith can be sneaky. I don't know if I really trust him to stay healthy. So I kind of hope they add somebody else in there, but they have a couple guys obviously to step up, but they have the weapons. I think Joe Burrow is an elite quarterback, second best quarterback behind Mahomes in football. To me, I think that's a no-brainer that he's number 2 right now. The running game will be better. I like the Bengals this year. I really like them, and I kind of have this feeling. I don't know if I want to say the second. Yeah, I pretty much. The second the last season ended, I kind of had this feeling. And I didn't really want to say anything. I kind of been hinting at it. I didn't really want to say anything through the early part of the offseason because I wanted to make sure they kept their coordinators, especially Lou Anarumo, their defensive coordinator, who's one of the best in football, especially come playoff time, the big games. But they're able to retain a guy like that. And the Cowboys, who we had to match up and retain a guy like Dan Quinn, I mean, it's huge. It plays a factor in how I have their seasons playing out. So really on the offensive line here, will it take that step up? Will it be good enough? But young talent, young elite talent everywhere on this team, very well coached. Zach Taylor, forgot to mention Zach Taylor. I think he's a phenomenal coach. The way he game plan, especially in that Bills game last year in the playoffs. I mean, down the stretch too, and in the regular season. I thought he coached very well in the Chiefs game that they lost. It was a tough break. Zach Taylor's a very good offensive mind and very good at game planning and getting his team ready, having a plan there. So I think their time is now. The AFC is so tough. I mean, there's teams I don't even have in the playoffs that could win the Super Bowl. The Dolphins, the Chargers, these teams can go the distance. Teams I have, the AFC is just that good. It's that good. NFC is a little more. I don't know if wide open is the right word because I don't know if there's not a long list of teams that could. Because you just say wide open where it's like all these teams could win it because it's so wide. So that's not really want to say because I only think a handful, less than a handful of teams in the NFC can win it. But at the same time, there's not too many juggernauts to get through in the NFC. To me, there's really no Bengals, Chiefs, Bills, maybe Jets, teams like that, Jags, whatever. Maybe there's some that can compete with some of those teams, but there's not like a wall of teams that you have to get through to get to the Super Bowl. So that's why the NFC, it's like doable for teams. So it's going to be a really fun year. I'm very curious to see what those surprises will be, who the surprise teams will be, the upsets. I'm just really excited. I'm really excited for week 1 already. Can't wait. I'm really excited for our content. We still have more off-season content. At this time every year, I do player rankings by position. It's predicting the upcoming year, so it's for the upcoming year. A lot of fun. Rookies will be involved in that, of course. And then the in-season content, weekly picks, weekly power rankings, score predictions. We'll add some more content. We always try to keep you guys involved, too. To get more involved, follow us on Twitter. There's a link pinned in the comments for that. We're on Threads now. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We have YouTube Shorts up on our channel, so check all that out. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Talking with you guys more on Twitter, though, if you want to talk with us there about these predictions. But that is going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.